kiss of life feels fresh and new because no one is doing sexy concepts anymore. But can you blame this generation? Everyone's debuting at 15 years old. The sexy concept was a much bigger staple in K-pop in the second and third generation. For many reasons, it has taken a backseat to different concepts. However, the sexy concept has brought in some interesting developments in the scene. Due to Korea being a relatively conservative country, at least compared to most Western countries, South Korea comes off as a bit prudish. So the sexy concept has much appeal in the fact that it's a bit transgressive. And I think it's that innate nature of the concept of being controversial and boundary pushing that makes it attractive to multiple fans. Of course, I won't deny that sex appeal is a big factor in the sexy concept that companies choose, and I will not gloss over the more exploitative nature of the concept, but the concept has a lot more to offer than just that. And I also want to acknowledge that aspect of the concept because I do believe many fans like myself were and still understand the strong appeal of this concept outside of just visuals. So without further ado, let's get into it. Just a tiny little disclaimer. There are a lot of concepts that can be tangentially related to a sexy concept, like you can find an idol sexy or a music video sexy without it being a sexy concept. And I won't be counting those as I don't feel like it really fits. So a lot of girl crush can kind of lean towards a sexy concept, but I'm going to leave it out as I would categorize it as its own separate thing. So yeah, just this tiny little disclaimer. Girl power is sexy. Girl boss feminism was pervasive during the 2010s, and it was no different in K-pop. Of course, not the feminism part, but because feminism is still considered a taboo thing in Korea, but definitely the songs had sprinkled that undertone of female empowerment all over the songs. A lot of the sexy concept songs took this idea that being sexy is empowering. This had a lot to do with the groups and soloists doing these songs were either tenured or composed of mature idols, not only in age, but also in their idol personas. As you can have idols that are older but still portray a younger image. For example, of two idols born on the same year who are opposites in this regard is Nayeon of Twice, who despite being the eldest of her group has a young, youthful, innocent image, and then compare her with Hwasa, who was also born in 1995, who despite being the maknae of her group has a more mature, rebellious image. Groups and songs that first come to mind is Exid's Up and Down, Dalshabet's Jocker, and most of AOA's discography falls into this category. The songs tend to be lighthearted, brassy, and pretty upbeat. The lyrics tend to be flirty and a bit cheeky. The music tends to the side of being louder than life and really in your face, but with your standard repetitive hook to keep you repeating the song until their next comeback. The music videos very much match the composition, being very bombastic with saturated colors and interesting costumes. Very interesting costumes, like every profession, but make it sexy. The plotlines in the music videos were also pretty entertaining as to undercut the fan service in the music video. They added comedy in a lot of them to balance it out. It's not even just comedy, it's just very lighthearted tone throughout the music video, as if the director is preemptively telling the audience to not take this too seriously. We're all here just have some fun, so don't start a moral panic over the sexiness. For example, AOA's Heart Attack music video was following the tropes of a rom-com film. Just silly fun video ideas. The lyrics, on the other hand, tend to focus on a variety of themes, but one that is pretty common is being assertive of your feelings as a woman rather than passively waiting for men to notice your feelings, such as Girls' Day's Female President. The song is an empowering anthem for anyone feeling hesitant to express your feelings, particularly for a woman who might feel constrained by traditional gender roles. It encourages taking initiative, breaking free from outdated norms, and embracing the excitement and vulnerability that comes with love. The reference to a female president symbolizes broader societal progress and the increasing acceptance of women in leadership roles, extending this empowerment to personal relationships as well. But a lot of these songs also focus a lot on the female singer fully embracing their attractiveness and their ability to charm their partner or the audience rather than playing the timid character that needs validation from others. The idol sings of already having this confidence inwards. Of course, this is limited to looks, but at least it's something, such as in Hello Venus' Sticky Sticky, where they sing about how they're able to affect their hypothetical partner with their appearance alone. There's been a lot of talk recently as we have left the 2010s why girl boss feminism wasn't as progressive as we once thought it was, but I think the same reason it wasn't successful for feminism, for at least its longevity, is the reason it was successful in K-pop. To preface, it wasn't feminism in K-pop, I just want to repeat that. These female idols were singing about being assertive, going for what you want, and being beautiful at the same time, and that can be really attractive to a lot of people, especially a lot of women and girls. especially so if you're told the correct way to behave is to be demure and humble, when it's not authentic to who you are, which it's not to many people. So to be in a community where your personality traits are not valued or appreciated, it's very attractive to see other women sing and embodies the same traits you have. While at the same time, these transgressive actions of celebrating these traits and behaviors are tolerated because you are still doing it in the framework of what's acceptable. You're still flaunting your body as a woman, a thin and young body, to the audience, dancing in really tall stilettos in micro skirts that barely cover your bum, with the perfect makeup at all times. So while they are pushing some boundaries, many boundaries are still being perfectly upheld. Yes, you can sing about being dissatisfied with creepy men, being assertive, and the first female president, but you still have to follow the strict beauty standards and be sexy for your fans. So how much progress is it really? The idol versus the image. Another important aspect of this particular concept is that many of the idols who fell into this category had drastic personalities from their onstage appearance and their offstage appearance. I'll be mentioning Hyuna simply because I don't think you can talk about the second generation, but especially the sexy concept for the second generation, without mentioning her name. She is the first person when I think of this concept, and I don't hide that she was my ultimate bias since I got into K-pop in 2011. Of course, this has changed since the scandal, so it's hard for me to even divorce the idea of K-pop and Hyuna. So I will be talking about her more than I'd hoped to have talked about her since my last video on her, but I do think she portrays an interesting case study on this pattern. That idols that do have a sexy image tend to have a shy persona off stage, and that's a large marketing strategy to make them more endearing to the public, not to say that this isn't authentic to who she is. As if saying, yes, they sing about being really outspoken and out there, but that's not who they really are. Not to say there's anything wrong with having a separate identity from on and off stage, I actually think that's really healthy. I just don't like the emphasis or importance on the idol being different from their onstage persona if their onstage persona is polarizing, as if it would be a bad thing if Hyuna or any other idol was as confident or sexy or as abrasive as they pretend to be on stage. I think perfectly embodying my last point about not traversing the boundary too far of what's acceptable, as this persona is entertaining on stage, but it better stay on stage. The minute you bring it off stage, then we'll have a problem. However, it's very clear with Hyuna, this is a cautionary tale that if she truly embodied her stage persona, she might not have been as much of a disappointment as she is now. The appeal of sensuality. I heard someone say that Sunmi is elegant sexy, and ever since then, I have been distinguishing the sexy concept into two categories. The flirty girl boss concept that I just went over, and then there's the elegant sensual concept. The sensual, sexy concept has a darker undertone and is, for the most part, more straightforward in the subject matter. While the girl boss feminism is sexy in a flirtatious way where things aren't said up front, the sensual concept is more upfront of the topic is sexual. A variety of groups that participate in the girl boss sexy concept also try on sensual concept depending on the season, such as girl group Sistar, which has fun, upbeat, sexy concepts like Touch My Body, and on the other hand, they have songs like Alone, which play more into the sensual side. While both are sexy, the tones of the concepts are very different. Songs and groups that I feel represent this concept really well would be Sunmi's 24 Hours, Afterschool's Flashback, and Miss A's Hush. Also, I didn't give an example of a boy group for the last concept, but I would think it would be a disjustice to forget Taemin and his solo work, which embodies this concept really well. And I think why he fits so well is because he has said before that he implements female choreography or choreography usually reserved for female idols to his work for a more sensual performance, and it really shows. So count Taemin in this list as well. The songs tend to be a bit more slow-paced, a bit jazzy at times too, when I think of like Sunmi's Full Moon. The music tends to be very melodramatic, often played in minor key, giving off almost a melancholic sound, really embody a dark and mysterious atmosphere that is sexy. The lyrics tend to follow the music in being a bit darker. Intense passion is a common theme, where emotions and desires are brought to a level so heightened that you lose control of them, such as Sunmi's Tale. The lyrics convey a complex, dynamic relationship where love and conflict are intertwined. The use of animalistic imagery, along with the theme of egotism and power play, paints a picture of a relationship that is both passionate and challenging. The song seems to explore the idea that love can be wild, unpredictable, even a little dangerous, yet there's still an undeniable allure to the intensity of these emotions. Another common theme is sadness, especially to do with heartbreak. Not so common, but there's still a pattern of exploring the negative aspects of relationship, such as Fiestar, whatever, You're So Pitiful. The song paints a vivid picture of how a relationship can leave lasting wounds, but also how time and perspective can alter the way we view both ourselves and those we once loved. The girls have grown beyond the relationship, gaining clarity and emotional strength, while the ex has seemingly lost their confidence and identity. The repeated emphasis on pity rather than anger or longing suggests that Fiestar is viewing the past with a mix of sorrow and detachment. The music video, again, are darker and sometimes can have a bit of a horror element added into the concept. The concept is a bit more polarizing than girl boss poppy concept due to its tone. It does ask you to take the song a bit more seriously. In that sense, it's a bit more vulnerable and more risky to release music like this. At times, people will respond well and consider this concept elevated sexy. Yes, it's sexy, but it's also artistic. And this is the lens that most of Sunmi's career, even when she was part of Wonder Girls, has fallen under. On the other hand, sometimes this concept can fall flat on its face and go too far for the general public. Then we have idols being criticized for being trashy and vulgar. It's really hard to gauge how the public is going to react, what is going too far, and what is being too tame. It's a difficult challenge for any concept, but the sexy concept does pose more of a risk than most others. At least it will get attention, and all publicity, even negative, is good, right? The exploitation of idols. So it would be amiss if I didn't talk about this concept and how it has been used to exploit idols. And it's a long history of idols being forced into this concept and being pushed way out of their comfort zone. The first example, and probably one of the first idols given the role of a sexy idol, is Park Ji-yoon, a former JYP idol who sang the infamous song Adult Ceremony or Coming of Age Ceremony. The lyrics of the song describe a young woman who has just recently matured into adulthood, and because of this, her partner doesn't have to wait anymore to be intimate with her. Now, Park Ji-yoon was barely an adult when she performed the song, and I don't have to tell you why a song that basically gives permission for her fans to start sexualizing her simply because she's no longer minor is problematic. It's pretty gross, especially considering how parasocial the K-pop industry wants you to get with the idol. Not only is the song used for idols as of somewhat recently to perform once they hit the age of 18 or 20 in the Korean system of counting age to mark the end of their childhood, I guess, but the song has also inspired later releases such as Girls Say Something, Stellar's Marionette, and Rainbow's Black Swan to varying degrees to Adult Ceremony, more in the style of the music video rather than the songs and the lyrics, just to emphasize how much of Park Ji-yoon's concept has influenced the sexy concept in K-pop. She is quite literally the blueprint. The problem of Adult Ceremony didn't stop at the song's lyrics being creepy, but also the reception of the song and concept. Park Ji-yoon came from a very religious background, and seeing her be used as an example of improper behavior and of what not to do really affected her. Multiple rumors about her started to circulate simply because she had a sexy image, such as her sleeping with high executives, which she could not stand for any longer. To make matters worse, she had always wanted a pure image rather than a sexy one, but due to the success of Adult Ceremony, she was pushed further into the role of a sexy idol. This ultimately led to her to terminate her contract with JYP and her years-long hiatus as an idol. The story does have a happy ending as she's currently still making music that she wants to create. However, other groups and idols haven't been so lucky to have a happy ending, at least not as of recently. Groups like Stellar have come forward and how their company tricked them into doing sexy concept, specifically the member Gaeyoung, in which Stellar at first had a very cute and quirky concept and only shifted concepts due to their initial music videos and songs not being successful. Now, this isn't that uncommon in K-pop. However, Stellar members have come forward to talk about how they were blindsided and essentially forced to do things that they were not comfortable with, being misled about how shots and how they would be recorded and be perceived, about the outfits that they were going to wear, such as saying that they should just try the outfit and take pictures, and if you don't like them, we won't use them, only for the same pictures to be used as promotional material. Not only that, but the posing would make it look like they're wearing less clothes than they actually were, further blindsiding the girls. The girls have stated that they don't have a problem with the sexy concept, or at least they did say they had no problem with the sexy concept, but they would have liked to be able to have some control on how far the concept goes or have some say in it, which I can't help but agree is more than just fair. Also, the fact that the company didn't even tell them that they were going to go for a sexy concept, or at least warn them about it, and just instead force them into and then gave them no preparation as they found out at the same time that the public found out about their sexy concept. And I just don't know what's worse, being blindsided or having already been told and having the anxiety of waiting for it to be released. Companies threatening and forcing idols into sexy concept is not new, and still continues to this day, as I'm sure. It's irresponsible for companies to essentially leave their idols to fend for themselves in a conservative country by pushing them into a controversial concept that will follow them into the future. The concept is so vulnerable that it needs to be done with the idol's consent. Without it, it's just abuse. But what happens when you do have idols who desire to push the boundary and who do consent to do these concepts? Then you have the case of Gain and Hyuna. Those of you who don't know who Gain is, she's the maknae of Brown Eyed Girls, one of the most impactful and important girl groups of the second generation. Songs such as Abracadabra, which if you say you haven't heard, I'm sure you've definitely seen the iconic dance, often known as the arrogant dance. And other songs such as Kill Bill and The Sixth Sense. And if you're one of those people who complain about the lack of vocals in this current generation, I suggest you listen to Sixth Sense and you'll definitely be satisfied with their vocals, their vocal abilities. A group that, just like its fan name, is everlasting. The group had debuted in 2006 and they are still not disbanding, with promises of future works, so keep an eye out on them. Like all the members of Brown Eyed Girls, Gain too has made her solo debut and has cemented herself as a groundbreaking figure in the industry. What makes Gain's career so different from her contemporaries is her versatility in being able to sing and perform about a myriad of taboo topics. Topics that would otherwise be considered too scandalous, Gain does it regardless. The topics of her songs focus on lust, female orgasm, and abuse, or at least these are the few that she has performed about. She does this with long-time collaborator Hyuna, a famed lyricist who not only collaborates with Gain and the Brown Eyed Girls, but other artists like IU, SHINee, and Taeyeon. She's a very respected lyricist and very much loved lyricist too. Hyuna had explained how she desired to write songs that tackle these taboo topics of maturity and push the boundaries of what's acceptable to sing about in K-pop, also broadening her own horizons as a lyricist. However, she also emphasized that she didn't want to pressure an idol into this concept, something that these companies should really learn from her. So she wanted someone who would work alongside her. And finding an idol that would execute this performance, and as well had the desire to, was a challenge. But then there's Gain, who not only has the maturity and the versatility to be able to pull off these songs, but as well as the desire to see an artist's vision come to fruition through her. When you have two artists collaborating in unison to create a body of work who are equally invested in the art they are creating, it really shows. And looking at Gain's body of work, it's evident how much attention and care both artists have for their individual crafts, Hyuna's lyricism and Gain's performance ability. And their efforts were rewarded. Sure, Gain continues to be a polarizing idol, but she's also highly respected for her work. And same with Hyuna. They also embody how versatile the sexy concept can be, what boundaries it's able to push through, how it's one of the most creative and flexible genres for a concept out there. If you treat it like art, not a quick cash grab by using your idol's body, but rather an exploration of human desire and how it impacts our lives. And when I say, when I criticize about using idols' bodies, I hope you know I'm not talking about the idols themselves who have been forced to do these concepts, but 100% I'm putting the blame on the companies. And I mean no shame to these idols at all. Sex is not something you can ignore, nor is it something that you should be ashamed about. Yet in so many cultures, it is considered shameful. You need trailblazers like Gain and Hyuna who aren't afraid of unveiling the taboo, because not only does it produce amazing art, but it's also important to celebrate every aspect of humanity. Because isn't that what art is? A reflection of our humanity? The sexy concept today. As I said in the beginning, K-pop has somewhat let go of the mature and sexy concept in favor of a variety of other concepts. Think of the top groups of New Jeans and their youthful Y2K concept setting the trend for multiple other groups, IVE and their elegant concept, aespa and their futuristic AI concept. I have 3 reasons as to why I think this is so. I think the first reason is that youth is so highly prioritized in K-pop at this moment that maturity in any form is kind of averted to, is a bit scary to some companies. Not to say that youth was not highly appreciated and valued in previous eras, but that youth was valued in idols. However, you had young idols playing into this mature role, while now you have young idols playing into this youthful role, or even younger. And I don't think that's a terrible thing. I do prefer young idols acting their age rather than forcing them to act older. However, the solution is not, however, I don't think that's a perfect solution. I think the perfect solution is just to debut older idols, especially over 18. This prioritization of naivety and youthful innocence. I think the second reason is because, especially for the first generation, the girl crush concept dominated so much of K-pop. And I feel like, as I said in my disclaimer, girl crush can kind of overlap with the sexy concept. And because we were being fulfilled on that front with the girl crush concept, sexy concept kind of faded into obscurity. with Girl Crush being the new cash grab for companies to get a large fan base rather than the sexy concept. So there really was no need to go to this more risky concept of being sexy and mature. When Girl Crush, you would able to fulfill the same things, but a little bit more tame, or a lot more tame. And my third reason is that I think now girl groups had started to become marketed to a larger female audience and not solely marketed to more predominantly male audience. And I guess companies and marketers decided that women did not like sexy concepts, which is not true, and that men only like sexy concepts, which is also not true. As we saw that many female idols that did lean into the sexy concept did have a large female audience. But with girl groups being marketed more to a general audience, I guess they assumed for them to be more palatable, they had to release that sexiness. Of course, like I mentioned, there are groups like Kiss of Life who really saw the void in the industry for this concept and kind of took it for themselves. I hope that they see a similar trajectory with Brown Eyed Girls, as I see a lot of similarities, such as having this strong collaboration with someone on the creative side, and also all of them having solo debuts. And of course, you can't forget G-Idol, who we see dabble with this concept from time to time, and also have a strong hand in the creative part of their group, and also have a lot of control with what kind of music and what kind of concepts they do. And I would love to see both of these groups see their full potential in this concept. And I also wanted to mention soloists, as I think they've always been pretty strong in this concept, and I definitely would like to see idols like Sojin, Seulgi when she does her solo projects, and also Chungha. I would love to see either or any one of the three be somewhat of a Sunmi successor, even though I know Sunmi still releases music, but I definitely would like to see any one of them from the 3rd to 4th generation in this style of music, and bring some 2nd gen sexiness into the 5th generation. I haven't really talked about boy groups, except briefly about Taemin, but that's only because what's a sexy concept for boy groups is so different from what's a sexy concept for girl groups. I didn't know how it would fit into this video, but they definitely have their own video and their own, they definitely have their own history and deserve attention too. So I hope someone who is more in tune with the boys group side of K-pop would be able to make a video about it and yeah, share about their thoughts. So this was my video on the sexy concept in K-pop. Thank you for the comment that suggested this. This was a lot of fun, and I'm sorry if this was not what you were expecting. And if you checked my recent community posts, you would know I recently got food poisoning. My stomach's still a bit messed up from it. I don't know when it'll get better, because I feel like it's been so messed up for so long. Yeah, it's very strange. This has been a very, very strange last 2 weeks. But yeah, my next video idea is to talk about solo standing and what causes it. So if you have anything you want to say about it or examples, feel free to comment. And well, yeah, that's all. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye!